Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Speaking Finals in Madrid WUDC 2023. It feels very ominous speaking up here from above you, but my name is Rob. I'm on the judging panel today, along with Diego and Christopher. So, the format for the public speaking round is impromptu. The speakers are given a prompt and then 10 minutes to prepare a response to that prompt. That can either be like agreeing with it, disagreeing with it, going on a tangent about it, looking for things that inspire, excite, and have interesting takes on the prompt. In order to be a bit Spanish and a bit Madrid focused, we've chosen to use a prompt from a famous Spanish poet from Madrid, that is Pedro Calderón de la Barca. And the quote that we have chosen to give the participants is, where did it go? In this treacherous world, nothing is truth nor a lie. Everything depends on the colour of the crystal through which we see it. So all speakers will be preparing responses to that. Our first speaker is due in about 45 seconds. Please note, do not text, send, communicate, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, in any other way communicate this topic to any of the participants on the list. They are only receiving the topic 10 minutes before they speak to make it fair for everyone. We'll be with you shortly with the first speech.
I'd like to welcome Menachem Weber to present his speech.
Someone's supposed to read out the prompt. Do I just start?
El micrófono. Pisa. El micro. Ahí, ok.
We have an old saying in Hebrew, Shmeka ne'otem chalne chalne al binami. It translates roughly to, when you see no truth, the truth is inside you. And it derives from a verse in the biblical story of Jehoshaphat. Perhaps one of the most powerful and heart-wrenching tales of human endurance. Now, given the relatively small overlap between debaters and Bible readers, I'll give you the short version. See, Jehoshaphat was an outsider, a convert and a single father living in Jerusalem in the times of the temple. Yet he wanted nothing more than to serve the high priest in whatever capacity he could. Of course, given his lineage and his lack of education, he was scorned, never accepted. But one day, as he went to the temple asking for any sort of a job, he overheard a plot to overthrow the high priest and to take control of the temple for monetary gains. Long story short, he defended the high priest, going with him through all the most iconic sites of the temple, seeing things an outsider could never dream of seeing, and in the process, saving the temple from being taken over. That lesson still resonates with me. It pops into my mind all the time, and I think of those words just as I did on day 3, when I came in with just 10 points, but told myself, Shmeka neot hem challe albina. And I managed to take first in each of those 3 rounds and break open with 19 points. This message is powerful, it's poignant, and it's a complete lie. As some of you may know, I didn't break on 19, I'm here as an adjudicator. As a few of you hopefully realized, there is no Jehoshaphat in the Bible, I just made him up. As 1 or 2 of you may have actually picked up on, his story is literally just the decidedly mediocre Channing Tatum film, White House Down, except I replaced the White House with the temple and president with high priest to make it sound more plausibly biblical. And as my Israeli friends probably realized right from the start, that ancient Hebrew phrase is literally an arbitrary assortment of vaguely Mediterranean-sounding gibberish that I just made up on my way to the podium. And yet, had you stopped listening right before I told you this part, or if you are that girl in the back right, whose bladder capacity seems to be magically synchronized with my thought experiment, you'd be inspired, you'd be better off. And it might have even worked. But the truth is too important. The truth matters too much. And this prompt we were given, this quote, about how there is no truth and there are no lies, there is truth, there are lies, and that quote, my friends, is a lie. Now, why does that matter so much to me? It matters to me because I want to use this time to respond to some drunk, well-meaning debater at break night. I didn't argue with him then because arguing with a drunk person is almost as bad as judging a bin room. But someone came up to me, presumably well-meaning, and asked me, look, I get it. Being religious is convenient. Clearly you're religious and it works for you. But you seem pretty smart. How do you buy into it? And we've all heard that cookie-cutter case in countless religion debates. Religion might be a lie, but it's convenient to let the people believe. And I wasn't going to respond to him then. But now that I have the floor, in my last minute, let me tell you, I think he's wrong on both counts. Number 1, I don't know that religion is more convenient. Would I have enjoyed being one of the debaters experimenting with sex and drugs this week instead of, I don't know, being stuck in the control group? Possibly. And would I probably sound better if I had a drink of water before starting the speech? Yeah. But given that today, 2,446 years ago, King Nebuchadnezzar and his Babylonian armies surrounded the city of Jerusalem, I'm fasting today. That's just how it works. But on the other hand, I also think he's wrong about it not mattering. Look, I'm not here to convince anyone what's the truth and what's a lie. But I can tell you for myself, there is no greater feeling than thinking that I have the truth, than living every day as if what I'm doing matters. There's right and there's wrong in every decision. I'm not telling you what the metric should be, not for me to decide, but if I can tell you one thing, there is truth, there are lies, and living by the truth, whatever it may be, is the best thing you can do.
Thank you for that fine speech, and now I would like to welcome to the floor Elena Price Fernandez.
Otra vez. Ahí va. Con el bolso. Con el bolso. Ok, vale.
¡Vamos, Elena! Mike.
Loud and clear.
Why am I here? Am I good at public speaking? Last time I tried, I wasn't. I stood still, and I was scary. When I left my speech, people told me they couldn't understand the message. They could understand the aggression. So why did I come? Why did I think I could do well at this public speaking? The thing is, I didn't know. I just wanted to grow in confidence. I just wanted to grow in experience and to learn what I can be able to do. Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And it couldn't be more true. I've known this quote since school, and I've experienced the truthness of it. I've had classmates believe all their lives that they were bad at studying. And because they believed they were bad at studying, because they believed they were dumb and they could never get a good mark, they never ended up doing well in an exam. Why? Because they thought they just couldn't. So they didn't work. They didn't try. On the other hand, confidence can really help you reach new heights and do things you never thought you would be able to do. How on earth would have Boris Johnson become President of the United Kingdom if he wasn't confident, right? Confident, right? I think you need confidence, as my mum always tells me, to achieve your goals, to really know what is true and what is not true, through the lens of confidence. So, how do you gain confidence, right? It's really easy to say you need to be confident, but how on earth do you manage this ideal confidence? Not too long ago, I've always asked myself why these private school boys were always so confident, even though some of them didn't have 2 neurons in their head. And I heard a podcast about one boy who went to Harrow, who explained that on his first day of Harrow, when they were about 10 or 11, they were told to sing in front of their whole school. Imagine how nerve-wracking that can be. Imagine how fearful those boys could be. But once they sang, once they realised they could do something better, once they realised they could get through a difficult situation they would never put themselves through voluntarily, they became more confident. And through these tiny activities, little by little, they became better, and they would experiment, try new things, and maybe even be good at them, because they believed they could. This is how you get confident. You get confident not staying inside of your comfort zone, but jumping out, jumping into the swimming pool. Because even though it might be ridiculous, even though I could well throw my heels onto the ground and just run away from this stage and from this cinema, I know I could at least say a few words in front of a group of people. You grow stronger because you realise situations aren't really that bad. You can really get through them, and you can really get better. Because what other people think shouldn't limit you. Because what other people think only lasts about 2 minutes. But your levels of confidence will last forever. And therefore, Whenever you ask yourselves if you're good at something or if you aren't, if there's objective truth about something, am I really good at public speaking or am I bad at it? Before you give a clear answer, before you decide if you should do something, you should look at what you're doing through the lens of confidence. Once you're confident, you can decide if you're really good or bad at something, and let me tell you, you'll probably be good at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that speech, Elena. We will now momentarily welcome up our third speaker today, Annie Komasheva.
Just to try the microphone, you hear me well like this, right? Okay, great. Okay, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Each of us comes here with its differences. We differ in so many ways. We differ in our perceptions of the world. We differ in our abilities. We differ in our identities. The skin color that you have, the country that you come from, the things that you believe in. Maybe among you there are people with disabilities. Maybe among you there are people who are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds or are having a unique history in their life. I really hate this narrative when people are telling us that we are the same and we need to perceive ourselves as the same. Because I believe that each person is very different, and this is what makes a person special. Your differences and when you embrace them. Because nothing is really bad and nothing is objectively good. Every difference that you possess, everything that you are, is something that you need to address, and this is what makes you unique. But you know, there are instances in which people around us influence how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive these unique characteristics that we possess. This might be people around you who are talking skeptically about who you are. I am an Eastern European woman. I am a person of Roma ethnicity, and I am a person who is LGBTQ. And then for a very long period in my life, people around me, coming from Bulgaria, which is a very conservative country, they have been very stereotypical of who I am, of some of my identities. And this, for a very long period of time, has made me to regard them as a disadvantage, as something that is putting me lower, as something that is making me a person from a second hand. And that is when I met a very inspiring woman in the sphere of diplomacy. And do you know what she shared with me? She said the following thing. All of your identities are like a side of a diamond. And the more you polish the diamond, the shinier it becomes. What this means is that the more you embrace, the more you are proud of your identities, the more they make you and shape you into the person you are. If you think about it, none of you, neither me, would have been here in this place in the same way as we are today. If it wasn't for our identities, if it wasn't for the history that we've had, which shaped us into who we are today. So what does this mean? View your disadvantages, create your disadvantages into an opportunity. You're this shining diamond, and it all depends on how you see yourself. What is the color in which you see this shining diamond? Is it shining lightly for you, or is it shining low? And if it shines low, change it. Create your disadvantages into your opportunity. And what you can do to do this? Firstly, embrace your identities. Talk about them freely and be proud of who you are. Secondly, and this is something that I regard as very important, Find a surrounding that supports you and helps you embrace those identities. And just lastly, and this is something that is applicable to everyone, help the people around you embrace their identities, support them, and help them be their true selves. Maybe you are someone who is very successful in debating. Maybe this is your first major competition, and you didn't do very well, or you did relatively well. But remember, none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for who you are. So remember to always cherish yourself and be proud of who you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech. I'd like to introduce Anna Coman to present her speech.
You know me. You've seen me. You've used me. We've been friends for a very, very long time. The first time you sneaked out, the first time you had to say I love you, your first disappointment. I am the lie, and I would like you to stop blaming me for all of the mistakes you've made. The Minister of Disappointment has been elected by all of you. He knows the sound the heart makes when it breaks in two. He knows the difference between the taste of tears of resentment and the taste of tears of joy. He knows the taste of the best comfort foods, and he can indicate where to get them in the softest voice possible. He's very good at making you believe there's a next chance. I've worked closely with the Minister of Disappointment for my whole life. You like him very much because he makes you believe in something new, yet you've made me guilty. You say I play with the devil. You say it's me that's made you do all of the things that are wrong with this world. It's true. I have worked for the worst dictators and politicians. I've aided them to say that it wasn't their fault. I haven't done anything. I do not reckon that this is my fault. I have convinced them, and I've convinced a lot of you. But I've also worked in the name of the most noble of things. I've worked in the name of love, when the truth was not enough, because sometimes people deserve more than the truth. I've worked in the name of forgiveness, when you need to forget, so you tell yourself another story. I've worked in the name of moving on, when there was little else to be done, when the Minister of Disappointment could not help you anymore. I was the one that gave you another chance. However, it wasn't me that said all of the lies. It was you. You devised the plan. You decided you wanted to tell the lie. You thought of how to tell it best. I just gave you the tools. I gave you a little push. I worked with the other ministers of the safe, of sadness. I've worked to help you out. I don't think I should be blamed for your decision. Why do you do it? Because I know why you blame me, but I'm unclear why. I think you lie because you want to make people feel better. And I think that's nice. I think you lie because you love people more than the world does. I think you lie because sometimes you know it would have been better to go the other way, but you can't really admit to the mistake. I don't think these are bad things, but I also don't think you should blame me for them. You've detected me in a lot of ways. You've created algorithms, you've created button reports, you've created people who spend their whole lives looking for me. They hunt for me, they take me out of declarations, they take me out of stages, they make sure I'm the one that dances with the devil. Yet you are always the better for it. You're the ones that say, nope, she's not ours. You're the ones that keep using me more and more deceitfully. Yet each time you end up with the best of the situation. And you say, I was the one that corrupted you. I'd like you to not do that. Because I'm tired of bearing the burdens that you've put on me and women like me throughout time. Each time, after each of your lies, I walk to the end of the street and I dissipate into thin air. And it's like I never was. But then, I come up again, and again, and again. And I've told you 1,001 lies, and you believed me, as if I was a god. And when I disappear, all of the things seem better. Yet only those that were a lie, all of the other ones, the departed God, takes away with her. Thank you.
Thank you for that fine speech. Now I would like to call to the floor Dina Rush.
Let me take you all on a journey with me, to a time that seems incredibly long ago. Almost like it was a time where the dinosaurs roamed and Earth was still tangible. Let me take you back to the time when I was young. When I came back from school, really there were only a few things I was interested in. Not homework for sure. I wanted to watch Pokemon, I ate my lunch, and then I ran outside the house. I ran outside the house in eager anticipation of what was to come. And slowly but surely, it came. There was a sudden silence in the air. The ground was vibrating, and a pungent smell started to circulate. My moment had come. The garbage truck had arrived. And you see, this was the favorite part of my day for me. When the garbage truck came, I always looked at the two gentlemen in the front, waved to them, "Hello, how are you?" They waved back. There was always that guy at the end of the truck swinging on that little pole looking like he was having the time of his life. And I really wanted that job when I grew up. So one day, I reached home from school a little bit earlier than expected. I got off at the bus stop, was making my way home. Garbage truck drove us by. I waved. "Hey, how are you doing?" This middle-aged lady pulls me aside. She talks to me sternly and she says, "What are you doing? Why are you saying hello to them?" When I was just a small little boy, I said, "Well, I really want to be like them, specifically that one, because he looks like he's having the time of his life." And to me, it was that simple, right?
She pulls me aside and starts getting angrier and angrier. And she says, why do you want to be like that? Study hard. Make sure you never become like that. This is not good for society. This is not a good job for the world. And I didn't understand that at all, because people always seem so happy to have the trash removed from their homes. And so, logically, like a child, I said, oh, so to be like that, I don't have to study, and then I just stopped studying. But she just got more and more angry with me, right? She was projecting her own idea of the truth to me as a child. Her idea of the truth was one of a fair amount of elitism. That there were only certain paths to success in this world. That, hey, if you're a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, you know the drill, then you're successful. But I just wanted to be happy. Like that guy in the back swinging on the truck, looking like he had the time of his life. And so that really taught me a very valuable lesson. I think society, as we move on and on through our lives, really just tells you what it as a whole believes. It tries to project its own truths on you and tries to take away what you want as an individual. It tells you to pursue certain fields of study. It tells you that only certain jobs are worth it. And it tells you not to do what makes you happy, because sometimes society just doesn't see it as valuable enough. And I think that's pitiful. I think it's incredibly sad, because it takes away a lot from us as individuals. And time again, well, many years have passed, and I don't any longer really want to be that guy at the back of the truck. Really now I want to be a teacher, a high school teacher perhaps. But when I tell this to people, they look at me with some sort of disdain. Why would you do that? You spend so much money studying. Why would you want to waste it all away teaching a bunch of kids who are just going to bully you and forget everything you said to begin with? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's what I want, and that should be enough. I'm not letting society tell me what to do with my life. And I'm not letting society tell me what's right and what's wrong in this aspect. I think a lot of the times it has to do with the crystal through which you view these things. I choose to view it my own way. So what? If I'm going home now, and I see a young kid, looks like me, you know, very cute, very handsome, and I see that child waving at the garbage truck, what am I going to do? I'm not going to pull that child away and tell him, hey, you're doing wrong, become a doctor, become a lawyer, become like me, you know, yeah, so cool, like a baby. I'm not going to do that at all. I'm going to stand there and I'm going to wave at that child and let that child figure out what they want to do with their life and give them that autonomy that I think that that young lady took away from me. In this life, there's no truth, there's no lies, there's only what you see through the crystal that you can choose. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech, Dylan. We'd now like to welcome up our next speaker, Isaac Maloney.
In this treacherous world, nothing is the truth, nor a lie. Everything depends on the color of the crystal through which one sees it. Well, that bloody well won't stop me from trying. In English, there's one thing we call people who look through crystals, crackheads. And I think they should be a bit concerned that there's different colors we're seeing there. I don't care for these poets, these engineers of the soul that want to go out and be pessimists and try to bring misery to this world by telling you you should constantly be anxious. You should constantly be thinking, maybe this is true, or that's a lie, or maybe there's no truth. I can just do whatever. Why bother? Fuck them. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you that how many today wander uncertain? How many wish for something true? They wish for some deep faith that they can look out in this world and not just live in their constant search for pleasure. For what matters? If there's no truth nor lie, you can do anything. You can just, drink yourself away. You can do all sorts of crazy things, go and wear extravagant clothing, but it'll bring you no closer to anything true. And I think that's what we all want. We talk about true love, for instance. We talk about that. I think that's something worth seeking for. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a book written in the 1850s about in France by a French-Dutch author, Huysmans. He wrote at the end of this book about a noble who spent his life partying hard and then with all his money decided to retreat to the country and engage in all sorts of extravagant experiments. At the end of his book, he finds out, well, shit, this wasn't enough. I'm going to need some Christ in my life. I quote from this, he says, Lord, take mercy on the skeptic who doubts, on the Catholic who would fain believe, on the galley slave of life who sits out to sea alone, under a firmament no longer illumined by a great beacon of ancient faith. That was some 17 decades ago, and I think this is still an affliction that people suffer from today. At least I do, and I hope that some of you can relate. What power it takes to say that I'm not a slave to my desires, that I wish for something true. I will not go about thinking it could be A, it could be B, but to say there is a righteous path. I'm not arguing for God here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not arguing for religion. I'm arguing for faith. I'm arguing for you to look into yourself and decide there is a right path. I want to go somewhere in this world. I don't just want to be pinballing between A and B. The smartest man in the world, Johann von Neumann, back in the 1960s, he invented the computing that goes into your phones right now, the von Neumann architecture of processors. He set out to find the truth in everything, scientist as he was, and boy did he find it. He invented the nuclear bomb in a sense, computing, biological findings, he did all sorts. But one thing eluded him at the end. On his deathbed, he called in a Roman Catholic priest. He called him in and said, well, I'm not too sure what happens after death. He thinks, well, death, there's nothing after it perhaps, or maybe there's eternal suffering. He goes for Pascal's wager and he converts. He quotes on his deathbed a part of a Mass, a Roman Catholic Mass, when the judge his seat have taken, what shall wretched I then plead? When the righteous scarce are freed. If the smartest man in the world, and I think that's doubtless, although I'm sure you're all very smart, you made it here, good job. If the smartest man in the world was so unsure, if he went through his entire life, and at the end he found himself lost for lack of some truth of, well, what's after? You can have all your truths in this world, but what comes after? Has it been truth in my actions? Will that lead to something afterwards? If the smartest man can think like that, I think it gives warrant to the rest of us to reconsider. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much for that speech, Isaac. I'd like to welcome Ruth Salome. Let's give them a round of applause.
Strong black woman. Black man. Little black woman. Woman, man, child. The difference between these two categories of identifying a person is that one focuses on the race of that individual to make a point, while the other just focuses on who you are as an individual, regardless of your race. This means that day in, day out, when you hear strong black woman, you see someone who is strong enough to overcome adversities constantly thrown at them. You see someone who is strong enough to not require protection from the society they live in that is constantly fighting and punching them. You see someone that does not deserve the same type of treatment that is given to the fragility associated with only when you mention woman. I remember my first experience with being treated as a strong black woman. I was 6 years old, and it came from my own family. My dad usually takes us to school. On that very day, I had slept late, so I woke up late. When I woke up, my dad had already left with my elder brother. What my mom told me was, you have legs, you can walk to school. It was more than half an hour of walking, and I was seen as a strong black little child that could walk to school because I had legs. I saw myself as a child that overslept, that could actually be given the opportunity to be taken to school and not have to walk that long distance. But my parents saw different. Actions, they say, come with consequences. Regardless of how I saw that circumstance, how they saw it was in the end what mattered. My second experience with strong black woman, black man, or black child was directly from the George Floyd incident. From the eyes of other black individuals in the US, he was another victim of the system. He was a father who had a family at home. He was a citizen trying to earn a living. He was just someone trying to make something out of his life. From the eyes of other individuals, he deserved it because of where he was at that point in time. He wasn't an upright individual, he wasn't moral, and he wasn't definitely the most precious individual to look up to in society. He deserved what happened to him. Day in, day out, there are circumstances within which people look at us based on their own perceptions and understandings of who we should be. Within that same instance, we also look at ourselves based on how we understand ourselves and how we want to be perceived. It doesn't really mean that how others look at you is wrong. Neither does it mean that how you look at yourself is the right way. It means that there is room enough for all of us to be able to have different forms of perceptions that actually allow for a diversity in how we interact with each other. It doesn't mean that one form has to be considered more important than the other. It means that we need to create room to accommodate all forms of these perceptions. So day in, day out, when you are struggling to come to consensus with other individuals because of the lenses through which they look at you, remember that it is also an opportunity to take your time and understand that people look at you based on their perceptions, their experiences, and based on the fact that there is room enough for all of us to be diverse, for all of us to contribute something unique and special to the world that we live in. Regardless of the lens through which you look, all we can do is hope that the lenses through which we look are not justifications
for the harms that are caused to us.
Thank you very much, Ruth, and thank you to all our participants today. A big round of applause for all our public speaking grand finalists. Results will be announced later tonight. I will hand it back over to the ad call with you shortly.